All right. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Now, how to find, attract, and connect with your ideal customer using LinkedIn. First, I just want to honor you for taking some time out of your day to learn something new about an incredible platform. So thank you for being here, growing yourself and your business on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon. I'm totally honored to introduce you to Sandra Long. Sandra is really the global LinkedIn expert, and she's really well known because she's literally written a book on LinkedIn. She's written LinkedIn for Personal Branding, the Ultimate Guide. She is the first person to ever deliver a TEDx talk about LinkedIn. It's an 11-minute presentation. I sent the link out yesterday. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll definitely want to watch that again too. It's called LinkedIn Community, a superpower hiding in plain sight. And that really gives you an inkling about what we're doing here today and the real power behind this. Sandra, thank you so much for taking the time out of your already busy time to be here.
I'm delighted to be here. This is my favorite topic, and what a fantastic group you have here. So fantastic to be here.
Well, I really appreciate your commitment to our audience as solopreneur notaries. And I want to share a little bit about how we met, because several years ago, I knew LinkedIn could help my business. It already had helped my business, but I still hadn't tapped into really what LinkedIn was all about. So I happened across your book. I think it was recommended in another book I was reading, and I read it and I was able to implement instantly from that book. And that's what I look for whenever I'm researching for practical information. I could read that book, read a chapter or a paragraph, and go right into LinkedIn and implement what you were teaching. And I love the book, and I saw instant results from it. And that's when I reached out to you and I just said, Sandra, book was amazing. It's already changed my life. Can we talk about helping other notaries? And you were so warm and gracious and opened up, and we had an amazing conversation that really set all of this in motion. So thank you for that. Thank you for just being open and cool.
Well, I was delighted that you called me, that you enjoyed the book, and that you wanted to bring more value to the notary community. So that was really great.
Yeah, I think what I'm loving about this, guys, and if you're listening to this conversation, this is us demonstrating the power of LinkedIn. You can connect with authors, course creators, influencers, professionals of all kinds on LinkedIn. And even more so, I think, Sandra, right when we connected, we talked about this new course that you were creating and unrolling. I think I was one of your first students in that course, and I continue to be a student in that course, because one thing you can count on social media to do is change all the time. And LinkedIn seems to be, I love the direction that they're going. So they're changing all the times, constantly innovating, and really creating a safe place for professionals to congregate. So I love being a part of that too.
Well, it's great. I mean, you're right. The change is amazingly massive. I mean, every single day there's new changes with LinkedIn. It's 100% what my focus is. So I want to be on really aware of everything so that all my clients don't have to spend all this time trying to figure it out or get lost. So
right. Why reinvent the wheel when we have guiding lights like you to help show the way and make it a lot easier for us? I love that. Now, I've been advocating for LinkedIn for years in this business, because the information and the connections that I made on it changed my life and my business by hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual revenue, just making those connections. So I've been talking about it. Lots of people see the vision, they jump in on it, but there's a lot of us that resist another social media platform or having to learn something new. So I wondered if you could tell us, why is LinkedIn so important right now?
Okay, thanks for that question. I mean, actually, for me, LinkedIn has been extremely important for years. But, what's happened with the world that we've seen in the last few months, everything is become absolutely essential. Everything is accelerated in terms of our virtual relationships. So, for me, it's not a great departure, but it's just an acceleration. When we think about the people that are using LinkedIn, they're from all over the world. They're the most influential, they're the most affluent and educated people. So they're people that are using LinkedIn as compared to any other social media platform are the people that will hire us, use our services. So they're really, for any of us in the professional world, these are the people that we want to be connected with. So the other interesting thing is every single day, there's over 50 million profile views. I mean, someone's looking at a profile 50 million times. And so the way I look at it is, they're all looking at our competitors. Why not put the effort in so that people are looking at us, at you, and at me? And it takes the effort, and it takes not only having the profile, but being connected and being engaged. And all of that will bring more profile views. And profile views indicate interest, real interest. In fact, let me show you something. I'm going to share my screen. So as far as like the ecosystem of LinkedIn is concerned, it's not just us as individual professionals. I mean, we're here, of course, there's 700 million of us, but there's also students are here, colleges, companies, there's 30 million companies here. So if you're trying to target specific companies, it's perfect. There's colleges, there's associations, there's government. So the ecosystem is pretty extensive.
Yeah, it's like everybody that we would want to meet in our business is on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so, right. They're either people that would be clients or people that could refer you to prospects, right? Yeah. And I think this is something Bill and I have talked about, and it really resonates with me. So I started in the business world in sales back in the 90s, back in the 80s even. I don't even tell anybody. So so we were able to do cold calls, and we were able to have conversations with buyers early on in their process. But that's really changed. Today's buyer is much more focused on gathering information, going online, doing the research, asking people in their network who provides those services, because there's a lot less trust, right? So there's a lot more in terms of work that they're doing before they even have a conversation. So that buyer's journey, what we're trying to do on LinkedIn is be the professional that is influencing that buyer early on, right? Being part of that network. That's really kind of the idea of that. So, one other thing, Bill, we talked about this. Let's do a poll. I'd love to get a poll about where people stand, or where do they feel that they stand in terms of their proficiency. And this is very much your own, yeah, there it is. It's your own interpretation of where do you feel you are. Do you feel you're a beginner or new? Do you feel you're intermediate, or do you feel you're advanced with LinkedIn? And there's no right or wrong. We just want to get, where do you think you stand? The votes are coming in, Bill.
Yeah, they are. It looks like overwhelmingly in the beginner phase too.
Let's see. We got a couple of advanced.
There we go.
Let's see. Mostly beginner, which is totally normal. This is an anonymous poll. It looks like we've got a lot of votes in, but we still need a few more. Looks like 72% of the votes are cast.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you want to say another like 20 seconds, Bill?
Yeah, let's do it. 20 seconds, guys. If you haven't voted yet, go ahead and do it. Marcy says she's below beginner. Yeah, this is self-defining, guys. So whatever you think your level is, there's no real clear definition or professional designation of beginner or intermediate, just where you think you fall on this. All right, that puts us at about 1.5 minutes for all those answers. So we got about 81% that were able to participate.
So why don't we go, if you end the poll, then you can share that poll so they can see the results.
Excellent.
All right. So 63% beginner or new, intermediate 36%, and advanced 1%. So here's what I'm going to say. Most audiences that I talk to are overwhelmingly beginner. So don't feel you're the only one, because you're not. And if you're new, it's like don't worry about that one bit. You're at the right place. And if you're intermediate, you're probably, you probably got your toe in the water. You've been connecting, you've worked on your profile. Some of you have connected with me. That's great. Fantastic. And then if you're advanced, the whole idea with being advanced is there's still every day new things to learn. I learn about LinkedIn every single day. So I always look at it as, yes, I teach, but I learn. So glad that you're here as well and you can help everyone else. But thanks for doing that poll, Bill. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming up with that.
Yeah.
So one thing that you just brought up was how back in when you were in sales, you would make those cold calls. Now, for me, one of the reasons I came up with the strategy that I did, that I talk about in phase 4 of my course, I talk about it in my morning mastery program that's included, was that I'm a shy, introverted, non-cold call kind of person. I had to find a strategy that would allow me to succeed without just the traditional cold calls like that. So what do you think? I mean, are cold calls and phone calls dead these days?
Oh, what an interesting question. And I've seen, there's a lot of debate about this. They're not dead, but here's the stat, and this is from Harvard Business Review, that 90% of buyers will not respond to cold calls. Now, this stat was before the pandemic. And now, so this has been going on for years, and you probably this all sounds familiar to most of you, that making a cold call is pretty hard. It wasn't even that easy in the 80s and 90s, but now it's especially hard. People are concerned about security, and their time is so valuable. And the big thing is trust. If they don't know you, if you haven't been referred by someone, they don't want to spend their time or waste their time. So it's become a pretty big issue. Now, I believe, and I'll have to say this, sometimes I get hired by sales teams, and it's become such an issue now because with people working at home, you can't even reach them. If you call the office, there's nobody there. So it's become even more of a heightened issue. But let me say this about the phone. The phone is a fabulous tool. We need the phone. We need Zoom. We need texting. We need LinkedIn. We need to be able to be sort of omni-channel because our buyers are using all of these things. So if you've ever had a situation where you tried to email someone repeatedly and you never got an answer, we've all had that happen. Or you've tried to call them and they never replied. One of the strategies that I've always used for years is if you're calling and you're calling, go ahead and email them or text them or do something different. Go on LinkedIn. But, being able to be omni-channel, for me, I like the idea of sort of softly, socially surrounding these folks. So if someone is important to you, maybe you've met them or maybe you want to know them, you can softly surround them and kind of get to know them digitally. So the phone is great. You need the phone. It's just a matter of kind of coordinating all your activity and surrounding your prospects.
I love how you put that, softly surround, because what that does too, and I'm sure we're going to get into this a little later on, but you can be dropping hints of content that will probably play right into their role and catch their eye when you're surrounding them that way. And I love how you word it, omni-channeled. Fantastic. Now, like so many of us, especially when we're in the beginning, we might know that we're supposed to be on LinkedIn. We know we see the value on it, but it can be overwhelming when you're just stepping into it. So what's the best LinkedIn starting point for solopreneurs or small business owners like us?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. And it's very important, particularly, most people feel sort of at the starting point, but I have to tell you, even people that are intermediate and advanced, some of these things you need to continually work on.
Yeah.
So, for me, the foundations for success are in these 3 areas: is your brand, meaning really be clear on who you are and how you help prospects. That's if you don't have that clarity, then how will your prospect have clarity? You've got to be clear on that. And it's displayed on your profile and your content. The next part is having a strategic selling network. This is something that surprisingly so many people don't do. They just have a random network, and you really want to work on having a strategic selling network. And the third foundation for success is a mindset having a mindset of providing value, being helpful on LinkedIn, not having the mindset where you're just getting on there and you're trying to, immediately start pitching people. So to me, those are the foundations that are the starting point. And then from there, you're one of the first things you'll sort of notice that you're going to be doing physically is creating a profile, right? And you'll see I've got the top of my profile there on the left, and I'm always changing things up. I'm changing my headshot, my banner, my different elements of my profile. On the left is there, and on the right is my Post Road Consulting, my company page. And all of this works together. And it's important you start off first with yourself. I mean, even if you have a company, you have an LLC, whatever, you still want to start off taking care of business with yourself, meaning understanding your personal brand and having that profile, building out the network, and then you advance into these other amazing, using all the amazing capabilities on LinkedIn. Company page is one of them, but there's many others. So that's part of the beginning process. And I do want to say this about profiles, and this is my perspective. I don't want to just treat it like a resume. I want my profile to motivate. I want my profile to inspire someone. I want them to feel like when they see me, that they feel like I'm friendly, I'm knowledgeable, that I'm a helpful expert. I'm not just shoving some idea to them. I'm not just asking for a sale, but that I'm actually trying to attract people and motivate them. So when they arrive at my page, they think, I want to know her, or I want to talk to her. And that's what I want to have happen. So these are a few messages I got last month from people. And I was pretty happy because, and I get these occasionally, and these are messages saying they read about me, they were interested in getting help with LinkedIn. And I never talked to them. I never met them. I covered up their names so that you wouldn't see their names. But David on the left, he ended up hiring our company, and Thomas, he also did. So these are people that for some reason they came to my page and they were motivated enough to send me these messages. And then it's up to me to try to have a great conversation. Now, don't count on this always happening because, this was great that this happened, but you have to make these things happen by being friendly, helpful, and then it happens in natural conversation, right? That's much more likely and more common.
I love that you talk about that because I think so many of us, nobody wants to sell anything, but they're like, oh, I just know I have to get on there. I know I have to get on there. So all we end up doing is we default into selling. So all we do is we get on and we sell our services rather than focus on the connecting and being of value and encouraging others. I love the word that you use there, to motivate. We're trying to motivate them to take action and hopefully to work with us, or at least
Right.
fill their needs.
Well, and you're bringing up a point. I mean, I feel like your profile it could be very much selling you. It's just in your interactions, I wouldn't want your messages or your posts to be overly salesy. But once they're impressed with your personal invitation, or they see your post, then they're going to look at your profile, and then they're going to get even further sold. So right. It all works together. So for me, I always tell people that you want to position yourself for the optimum success. You want to write in the first person. Your headshot should have a smile. And you should focus on your client's success, not just how great you are. Like, you don't want to just be like, I'm the greatest. I sell this, I sold that. I've been the top sales, whatever. I've won all these awards. You want to be focused on how are you helping clients, and bringing out a little bit of personality or a little bit about yourself and personalizing, those are all things that can be really helpful.
That's so huge. And I love that you broke down those components of a good profile for us as well, because one of the big things that I advocate for is that if you spend time on your LinkedIn profile, because you get so much room to really show your passion, your personality, and your professionalism in there. You get all those P's in there to really demonstrate why you would be the best person for whatever notary work or whatever else you might be cross-selling in there too. Then you can copy and paste your LinkedIn profile into all those other notary directories, all the other online profiles that we have. So this would be the one to spend time on.
Yeah.
Now, but I know there's still a lot of questions from probably a lot of us. So how does LinkedIn work for helping us find our ideal customers?
Okay. There's no better tool in the world than LinkedIn to find prospects. And some of these are, let me say this before I even go into this. So think about yourself. You are the center of the universe, and the people that you know are your first level connections. So if you have 500 LinkedIn first level connections, then you have access to about 200,000 people.
Wow.
That's based on the average statistics. So that's why having that valuable network is so huge. And so when you're prospecting, that comes into play, right? So I did a little research on your industry, and you look here. So for real estate agents and mortgage loan officers in the US, these are the ones I found, right? And I know the other thing you have to be aware of is some people use different titles. So based on these titles, and there's a lot of different titles that people could use, like real estate advisor, real estate, whatever. But based on real estate agent and mortgage loan officer, I have 401,000. And in the US, closing agents, escrow officers, real estate attorneys, 26,000, and estate planning attorneys, 1,000. So that's part of the universe. And again, more people are joining all the time. And what you can do, there's all these different filters. You can do a people search. So you can look by title, you can look by geography. If you wanted to find closing agents in Chicago or Phoenix, Arizona, that's what you do. And the more that you're connected to people, the more visibility you're going to have, and especially not only to just people, but people that you might have connections into. So that's why having that strategic selling network is so important. But the other amazing thing is, in addition to people searching, and there's a whole lot of stuff about people searching and a lot of ways to do it, but you can also search for content. You can search for companies. And sometimes, let's say you've had some success, maybe it's a real estate firm or something. You might want to then see, well, who else works at that real estate company? You can go to the company pages and you can see who else should I know at that company, right? Or the same with schools. You can do that with who works there and also alumni. So there's all these different ways that you can network in, as well as groups. So, and all of these things have filters and you can search. So it's just mind-boggling of the power of what you can do. And it all kind of, when you think about prospecting, it all ties back to the fact that and this is actually kind of an older statistic, that 49% of buyers, they want to work with someone who they're connected to either first or second level. They'd rather think about what you do when you have a major decision. Let's say you're looking for a real estate agent or a notary or an attorney. You don't usually go to the yellow pages anymore. You go and ask somebody, right? Who do you know that's a good real estate agent? Who do you know that's a good banker? So that's what people are doing. And so you want to be positioned so that you're going to be referred. And within LinkedIn, there's all these different ways you can be referred. So the buyer can do a search and potentially find you. If your profile is optimized properly, they can find you. That's one way. The buyer can ask a friend, and the friend will be like, oh, well, wait a minute, I think I know the notary. They go into LinkedIn, they find you. The third one is if you've got a great personal brand because you've worked on it, so you're known, people know you, they've seen your content or they've messaged with you. And then your friend is in a conversation and they know that your services are needed, they mention you. Or you might ask a client, you might say to a client, you might ask for your client to refer you to someone else. And again, LinkedIn shows you all the pathways to do this. So they're all pretty good. And then referral partners. Now I feel like that's pretty big for you guys, because I think that's something that, there's people in the industry that you could refer each other, whether it's real estate people, insurance people, people like that could be amazing. So the referral piece is big, but it's all based on your network and being able to search. So hopefully that gives you kind of a small little taste of the power, Bill.
Yes, that really does. And I wonder, could we just go back a couple of screens to where the search screen was?
Yeah.
With a couple people asking for that. I think they just want to get right here.
Yeah.
On the people search. So here you go, guys. This is really demonstrates the gold mine that LinkedIn is. And you can search, get creative, think outside the box, guys, because people have different titles for themselves. Sometimes it's senior escrow officer, sometimes it's escrow assistant, whatever it might be. You can get really creative and really boost those numbers that Sandra shared with us. And if I talked about in my daily dues, how I would do research and I would find who works at which companies, and they're on LinkedIn, guys, their bosses, their vice presidents, their business development directors, they're bragging on how great their performance has been. Who's going to Puerto Vallarta this year? Who chaired the charity gala this year? It's all on LinkedIn. These are finding those unique and creative ways to connect. And Sandra, I wondered if you could talk about that just a little bit too. Is all right, we find somebody that we want to connect with. What's an appropriate way to connect?
Well, I mean, first of all, you definitely want to do the research on the person, look at their profile, see who you have in common. To me, that's the easiest way. If you have mutual connections, if you maybe come from the same city, if you went to the same school, you can look someone over and see because people relate to common interests, commonalities. And sometimes on their profile, you can find their personal interests. Maybe they volunteer where you volunteer. I mean, there's all different things. And so either you can ask your friend to introduce you, or you can, particularly if you have identified certain things that you have in common, you can then just send out a friendly note to that person. And again, I wouldn't make it overly salesy, but just that you have various things in common and that you're working on building your network. But to me, those mutual connections are really the gold mine for all of this. That's why, getting back to one of the first questions you said, how do you start? Well, after you've got a great profile, you need to build a strategic selling network, not just assume that whoever you might have 1,000 people in there, they might not be the right people. You need to work on building that out so that you're able to get the access to where you need to go.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just having a clear idea of who it is that you want to connect with, and then who they would be connecting with as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And that really kind of leads right into one of the next questions that I have about content. One of the great values I see to being part of the LinkedIn Club is that you continually send out reminders and sales triggers and things like that. Can you talk to us about how the value of LinkedIn when it comes to content and then the triggers to get somebody to act? Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I'll give you some examples, but before I even go into that, there's content and there's triggers. So these are content is a trigger, right? When I say a trigger, meaning it's something happening digitally that can cause you to have a conversation, like a connection and a conversation. So it also, your success with any of these triggers is going to be based on, is your profile great? Have you got your strategic selling network? Because for example, if you're doing content and you're not connected to the right people, what's the point? So the foundational pieces I talked about are really important. But once you've got those down, so LinkedIn is an amazing content machine, right? And it's a platform where you are able to do personal posts, you can do company posts, you can go posting in groups, you can do published articles, which are really full blog articles. You can do video you do mostly from your phone. You can just video yourself or video something else, like maybe if someone's speaking, and you can post that on LinkedIn. And now you can post documents that came out about 6 months ago, which are really very effective, like a PDF or PowerPoint. This is all in the feed. And they just came out with polls. Not everybody has it. Over the last month, polls came out, and stories are currently being tested in Brazil and the Netherlands, but we'll be getting stories, which is similar to like an Instagram story. So the content is amazing. And the thing about it is all these content features are free on LinkedIn, but it's important to kind of have an understanding of what's the type of content that's going to appeal to my buyer, because buyers are looking for content to solve problems. So it becomes part of your body of work and it attracts people to you. And it also starts conversations, right? So the content is key in terms of a trigger. It's probably the favorite trigger, but there's other opportunities. So, and these are all available on LinkedIn. So I can see who's got a new job. It's just one example. These are all different ones, but someone who has a new job, maybe they just started becoming a real estate agent. Maybe it's someone who you've known for 20 years, but you haven't talked to in 5, and they just started becoming a real estate agent at a top company in your city. That would be something good to know, right? Or they just, somehow became a closing agent. Whatever those new jobs are, it's really, maybe they went from one firm to another. That's important to know. If your prospect is posting, that's a trigger. Like if you've got certain people that you want to work with and they post, well, then you should be commenting, you should be, conversing, engaging, and that warms you up as that buyer's on that journey. Maybe, there's all these different things. Profile being viewed. I've had myself and clients get new sales, actual new sales, because someone looked at your profile. So I had one client, his name is Ian, and he's actually in the commercial real estate business. And he saw somebody viewed his profile that he knew years ago, but he wasn't connected, hadn't stayed in touch. He saw the profile view, and the person, funnily enough, didn't invite him to connect. So he saw the guy, went and connected with him, started sending a friendly message, and within 60 days, he had closed a very large office lease, and it was all because he was watching who's viewed my profile. So that's a trigger that, again, you see these triggers, a new job, someone's viewed your profile, someone's put content. You want to take action to then build that relationship. So those are just a few ways with content and other triggers.
That's huge, and thank you for sharing that, because I love how this kind of builds up on itself. Number one, you want to have an amazing profile that attracts people, and if they're doing research on you, you want to control the narrative. But then you also get really strategic on building your network and connecting with the people that would be interested in awesome content from you, and then you deliver that content and that value so they get to know you, like you, and trust you. That's super powerful.
Well, and Bill, you're very good at this. I mean, you are, you do amazing YouTube videos, you have your book, and you're always being helpful on LinkedIn. So that's really your philosophy as well. I mean, being that helpful expert means people want to work with Bill, right? And that's what we want to do on LinkedIn for everyone. And LinkedIn is just this platform that's just there. And you've done so well on LinkedIn by having that same philosophy across the board, Bill. It's just, you've done great.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the philosophy of win-win, give value first or just give first, so the givers gain. And that's the economy that we're living in. It's convenience, it's value, it's give before you get. And social media content done strategically and correctly can really do that. But
people don't want to be sold to. Like, imagine when you meet someone, as soon as you meet them, they're like trying to sell you. Like, how do you feel about that? Nope, you don't like that. I mean, most people don't like that.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I wonder if you can speak to that, because I would say that that's probably the biggest challenge that I see is people who, I often use a dating analogy. So it's like you find somebody you kind of like, you tell them you like them, but then most people in our industry, they make the mistake of asking them to marry in that first meeting. So would you say that's one of the biggest mistakes that people could make connecting on LinkedIn, is trying to advance the relationship too quickly?
Absolutely. I see that. I mean, and we all see it. I mean, you've all seen it when you've gotten invitations. As soon as you connect, they start pitching. And there's people that are, sell LinkedIn services or do things like what I do, but we all have different philosophies. And so, Bill and you and I have the same philosophy of being that helpful expert is going to be more attractive than being, that connect and pitch type of person.
Right.
So I can't stand that. I really don't like that at all. And I'm very turned off, and oftentimes I'll just unconnect from them.
Yeah. And I think that's the unsaid side effect to trying to advance too quickly, is it just turns people off and they shut down, and maybe they don't respond, or it doesn't allow the relationship to grow. So, but that's probably what's going through a lot of people's heads right now is, some of the barriers, the fears and the obstacles in this. So what holds people back, and what advice would you have for mobile notaries and loan signing agents in overcoming obstacles when they're on LinkedIn?
So, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I'd say there's a few different obstacles that I have to help people overcome it because they're my clients, whether it's corporate clients or individuals. And as you saw, most people feel like they're beginners, and even, even intermediates. I mean, basically, the one thing I'll say right off the bat, forget about age should not be a barrier in any way. I've got clients that are 16. I've got clients that are 85. So, I mean, and it's, so I wouldn't worry about that. It's all ages. I think also for LinkedIn, some people actually have a little bit of a fear because it's professional and they maybe grew up on Facebook and they feel like, well, I'm going to make a mistake. And that's something that people, and I think, what I tell people is we start with the baby steps, so you're not going to be getting on there the first time you've started on LinkedIn and start writing all these articles and posts and comment. You're going to start with the baby steps, which is what I talked about, is understand your brand, understand how you help people. It's very systematic, understanding your brand, building your network. It's really, going step by step is really the way to do that. So mindset and fear is something that you overcome by taking small steps in the beginning, and then you feel confident. And, and the other thing I'd say is an obstacle some people say is time. And what I believe there is, it's really, you have to make your own decision. But for me, I believe for business success, I don't care what industry, not just notary, but for business success, you need to have a strong brand and a strong network. And for career success, it's the same thing for job seekers. If they're going to do well in the job market, they got to have a good brand and they've got to have a network to help them. And for anyone in business. So if you believe in the same philosophy that I do, it's like a personal asset. Your brand and your network, that is your professional, personal asset. So if you believe in that, then having time shouldn't be an issue. The people who say, I don't have time, well, they're not believe in building their business, or they don't believe in themselves as being the part that needs to be focused on. So if you believe in that, the time is not an issue. And then the philosophy we talked about is, you and I have that same philosophy, is being that helpful expert attracts people. And then having a system. So if you just start on LinkedIn without a process or a system, it can be overwhelming. So I guess those are the obstacles and how I would overcome them, Bill.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you really just mapped out the biggest obstacles I had when I was first doing this. So when I first started, I knew it was valuable because I could get on there and I could find the information that I need. I could find those connections. Like, I didn't have a huge network of escrow officers, so I knew I could get in there and find it. But then I was so resistant to having another platform to have to manage and do all that. And then I read your book, and then it was like, wow. And then things really started to happen. Instead of me seeking out people, they were finding me. And I love what you talk about with the shared network and the shared connections. That was so powerful, especially with attorneys. I found attorneys love to see that there's someone else in their network that has used your services or talked well of you or shared you or mentions you. Those are that personal connection can get your foot in the door faster than anything else. What's also really awesome, and we'll get to, you guys have some amazing questions in the chat window, so we're going to get to those here in just a few minutes. But one of the things that has really helped, obviously, is your course, the LinkedIn Club. I thought that was a really great idea, and I love that it's continuous and you are so active in that community. So you participate, and some of the emails that you send out with just creating banner, like how to create your LinkedIn banner or how to add it and where to put it, and the detail that you go into, that's the little tidbits that I can basically take information, I can take it. It's like, oh, I could quickly get in there, I could learn how to do that and change that. So I'm committed to Kaizen, that constant continuous improvement. And that's what I get from being part of your course. So really, thank you for everything that you contribute there. That's been really helpful. Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about your club? And I think you're going to have a special offer for us today as well. Tell us about that, guys. And then we are going to move right into the Q&A, the question and answer phase. So Sandra is here to answer these great questions that you have in the chat system.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bill. I'm so glad that you're a part of the club. And I guess the key thing is LinkedIn's constantly changing. So again, I want to make it as easy as possible for my club members to succeed as quickly as possible. So it's a system, and it's pretty much what I talked about. You start with your brand, understanding your brand, and then moving into creating that amazing presence, that profile, and then connecting, which is building that strategic selling network, and then attracting people through content and all of that, and converting those into conversations, and then expanding with your company presence. So I believe that it's important to start as a person, because even though a lot of people say, well, I want to be on LinkedIn for my company, but people buy from people. So you're going to be more successful if you start with yourself. And so that's why the system is laid out in this fashion. So the club is, it's like a membership club. And so it's a continuous improvement. And what happens is when people join, they get immediate access. Most of this, they're all lessons. Some of them are PDF downloads, but most of them are small videos. And everything starts in the Club Hub, where, we focus on that success path. Everyone has their success path that they're working. So if you're a beginner, you start in the beginning with brands. But I have to say, even intermediates typically want to brush up on their brands. And even myself, I've been a LinkedIn expert for years. I'm always working on my profile. I'm always changing it. Just this last couple of months with the pandemic, I had to change again, because I want to now bring out more virtual. I had to, adjust things. So all these are parts of it: the profile, the content course, the convert, and the pages. All of this, as well as monthly Zooms, etc. So, and we have a community with a LinkedIn group. All right, so this is all the different parts of the club. There's the 6-stage success path, the video library. I answer questions. We do the monthly Zoom calls. You're going to end up with a profile that's going to attract and motivate. You'll end up with a strategic selling network, a company page, more conversations and prospects. So this is kind of not only what you get, but what you'll build yourself, because you'll get certain things, but then you'll be working on this. And the way this club is priced is at $43 a month, but I do have an offer, very limited time offer for you guys, which would be at $27 a month until Friday. I have a special coupon code, which is much below what I'm pricing this at.
Yeah,
right
wow.
now. Yeah. So I'd love to have you guys join and really focus on yourselves and starting in the very beginning, and love to have anyone join.
Yeah, this is amazing. And thank you so much for the generosity on that discount. That's a huge, significant discount. I know that's not common practice for you. So thank you for doing that for us and our notaries. And guys, that's going to be available until June 12th. So we'll send out the replay, and I'll give you some reminders this week on this. But if you're in the place now where you're ready to refine your business and you're ready to start pursuing those direct connections, whether it's through escrow officers or attorneys, your estate planning attorneys for general notary work, for loan signings, whatever it might be, you're not going to find a better price than this. So thank you so much for that. Now I am going to put the link she's referring to is the link I just posted for Post Road Consulting. That's for the LinkedIn Personal Best Club. It's there for you. I'll email this out to you as well. Now, we will jump into some Q&A. Sandra, how's that sound?
Yeah, that's good. And I want to also just say that you can stay in the club as long as you want. I mean, whether it's a month or a year or 2 years or 3 months, it's up to you. And you can just unsubscribe when you're no longer doing it. So it's totally flexible.
Yeah, totally. And that's so important. So you can stay as long as you want. Plus, on top of that, there's a 100% money back guarantee, guys. So there is a coupon code. It's just the number 16. So that's $16 off the monthly price. So thank you again, Sandra. And I know you guys will have some questions on that. That's great. I've been taking notes on most of your questions. So let's just jump in and do a couple of these, shall we?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So Well, let's answer some of the one that is really common, right, or in the chat anyway, right now. Do you have to subscribe to LinkedIn Premium for any of this to work?
The answer is no. Now, LinkedIn, let me say this about LinkedIn Premium. It's a lot of, everyone asks that question. There's a lot of different LinkedIn Premium services. And LinkedIn Premium is a nice to have, but here's the funny thing. LinkedIn Premium has nothing to do with your brand or your profile. Like everything with your profile is a free on the free LinkedIn platform. Everything about your network is free. The only thing with premium is you can see 90 days who's viewed your profile versus free. You can see the last 5 people. So that's one distinction. But that's when you think about all the different features that you get for free, what I recommend people do is start with free, get good at free. Like I've seen so many people, they pay for premium and they don't have their profile set. They don't have their network. I mean, why would you do that? Like, I think premium has a place. I have premium, but most people, especially beginners and intermediate, can do mostly everything I talked about for free. So all the content's free. You can connect for free. You can message for free your first level connections. You can also message people in groups, so you can get a lot of messaging in. And again, your profile. So I would say for most people, you would wait.
Yeah, great. I love that advice because I did the exact opposite. I had a non-optimized profile. Then I spent almost a year paying $65 a month, and I didn't even know what I was doing on it. So it was a complete waste for me. So I love
see that all the time. They're paying money and they don't even have the basics down, right?
Yeah. Yep. On that same note, Sharon says, this seems like LinkedIn is great if you have been in business for a while. What if you're brand new to the industry and you don't have much experience? How would you attract business when you're brand new to an industry or this industry?
Okay, I love that question, Sharon. So when you're brand new, then it's really important to have the right profile and network. Again, now I'll explain this. Now, everyone's brand new at some point. So I started my business in 2013. And before I did this LinkedIn work that I did, I worked at a company. And so I actively connected with all the different people that I used to work with from all different parts of my life. And guess what? Those people are the ones that refer me. Those are the people that bring me in. So people that you know from your past life, it could be from volunteering. It could be from school. It could be from a different job. You being connected with them is going to be important because that's part of your network that can refer you out. And the other thing on your profile, it's important if you're transitioning. A lot of you guys are transitioning from job A to job B, or the other piece is some of you I know are doing multiple things. You might be a notary and you're also a real estate advisor, or you have a job in an office and you're a notary on the weekend or whatever. You're doing all these things. So it's very important. Your profile is very important because you need to be speaking to all the people that will arrive at you only have one profile. So someone could look at your profile from your day job. Someone could look at your profile that's from the notary world, or someone who knows you from college, like all these different places. And you want to have your profile, remember, motivational and inspirational for all those people. So you've really got to put the strategic thinking about your positioning and the writing that essay so that people who come there, they'll be able to transition with you. And I remember when I first started, I remember thinking, well, people aren't going to know that I do this. So I had a period of time where I kept changing my profile as I got more experienced. So it's very important to help you when you're new for all those reasons. I hope that answers, Sharon.
Yeah, I think that you actually answered a couple of questions that had come up. So one of the questions was what if you do several things? Now, should you have separate profile pages? What I'm hearing from what you just said is no, there should only be one personal profile page, correct?
Right. You can have separate experience sections. So you could have a notary experience, and you can have your day job experience or your weekend job or whatever. You'd have 3 different experiences. I have a bunch of them. So, and most of us today in today's world, we're multitasking. We're doing multiple things. So you'd have an experience section for each one of those, but then you've got to think strategically about your headline and your essay. How do you bring those together so that it makes sense for people who are at your page? Because if you don't do that strategically on top, people are going to be confused. They'll be like, what does she do? I see
everything apparently. Yeah.
They won't be able to, you have to help them figure it out.
There is, and there's such an art to this too. And I know you and I have talked about this before. There's an art to blending the summary or the narrative on the profile page. And I'm sorry, what do they call it on LinkedIn?
No, they call it in the about section now.
Just the about section now. So you can really weave a story, not necessarily like a beginning, middle, end kind of story, but you can talk about why you're passionate about it and how make the connection to the dots for your potential customers. So if you do fingerprinting, notary, financial services, or whatever it is, you can blend that in so it just fits perfectly into the services package that you offer.
Yeah.
I love that. And the other thing I wanted to just talk about on Sharon's question too, when it comes to experience, sometimes we get, when we're just starting, we're feeling really insecure. We know we're inexperienced, but the beautiful thing about this particular business is we're the only ones who know our experience level. So if we can overcome our insecurity inside our own brain, the rest of the world doesn't necessarily know that this is brand new or that we're starting to post. Maybe you're finding inspirational, motivational posts that you can find and create on Canva and do your own, but tie it into your own industry. There's that you can start doing right away. There's no minimum experience required to be inspirational or motivational or to light people up or to talk about what you're learning or the services that you can provide. You can start from day one.
I love that. I totally love that.
Kia says, I have a question regarding the industry when creating the business page. There's not a category for notary public or loan signing agent. I still work my day job, but work remote. So I've been afraid to post on the personal page, unsure if people from my organization will have an issue with it. I don't have anyone from my network, but I know if I post, it will be public. Do you have any suggestions or anything that could help Kia through this?
Yeah, so a couple things. There's a couple issues. Thank you for that question or questions. First of all, the categories for LinkedIn with the different professions are very limited. I think they created them, back in 2005 when they started. Like for example, there's no social media category that I would be in. So I understand that the categories aren't. You just have to pick the closest that you can. And as far as having the day job and then having this as a secondary job, you're right. I mean, people could see it. What I would suggest you do is have a conversation with your manager. And, because most of us, I wouldn't just start posting. I'd have a conversation and explain, that this is something that you're doing on the weekends and you wanted to have a conversation about it. It doesn't interfere with your work. And just so that they're aware. And I think that will go a long way rather than just not do anything, right? So you have to kind of feel like in the old days, back when I was in the old days, it was more of an issue. Today's employers, it's more common for employees to have side gigs, to have other gigs. And it's just much more common. But I think having that open conversation that you're very much showing that you're a dedicated employee and that you're also excited that you have another thing that you're working on. So I would suggest that.
Excellent. And then Linda has a question. She says it may be a silly one, but do Facebook and LinkedIn remotely resemble each other as far as relationships go? Is she think comparing apples to apples, or is this more apples to oranges?
Well, they're both social media, and there's a lot of people that in the last year have been complaining and saying, well, LinkedIn is like Facebook. And honestly, these social media platforms, somebody will come out with a feature and some of them get copied, right? And that's what happens. Like, that's why we're seeing stories coming. That's a Facebook and an Instagram feature. And so they do sort of copy some of them from each other, but LinkedIn is very unique and special in that having that visibility with the professional connections, there's just really nothing like it. We're able to really brand ourselves professionally like nowhere else. And it's so powerful with the content, with all the different, searching capabilities, connecting, all the different, there's lots of features that we didn't even talk about here, but it's so much more advanced in terms of from what you want to do professionally. Now, Facebook is great for, if you've got a restaurant, you've got a spa, places like that are really good for Facebook and Instagram. But from if you're working with attorneys, real estate agents, professional people, LinkedIn is usually the better source because of not only the capabilities, but the people are there. So it's a little bit different group of people.
Yeah. Awesome. So Angela says, just as with Facebook, I understand LinkedIn has an algorithm. For a business page, it is recommended that you post at least 14 times per month for traction and to increase visibility. But it's not just posting content, it's getting likes, replies, and responses. But the key is to get them in the first 2 hours of a LinkedIn post. It's also recommended to create little groups that you can with LinkedIn with a reply to your post. Then you reciprocate to their post and it increases visibility of your organic content and gives you standing as a thought leader and an influencer. Do you have any recommendations on how to connect with individuals that would do something like this and reciprocate on posts, or do you recommend they do that?
Okay, so there's a lot here.
Yeah.
Is it Linda?
This is Angela.
Angela. So first of all, I think the advice that you heard about posting on the company page is more appropriate for a very large company. I would say, for me, I would put your emphasis, I assume that most of us are smaller businesses. Is that right, Bill?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I would rather you put your emphasis on your personal posting, your personal profile, your personal connecting. You'll do far better than, first of all, the company pages are great, but they're not as powerful as the personal profiles. They're not. And especially for small businesses. So I think you want to have a page, but I wouldn't be like all that effort you talked about 14 times a month. I don't do that. And I'm a LinkedIn person. I mean, I don't even, because it's not worth it. I mean, I put posts on my page and I try to keep my page up and I do that and I teach people how to do their pages. But for small businesses, and if you're a Fortune 500 company, you have a marketing staff and you're doing 14 posts a month and you're doing all that stuff. So I just think it sounds like the advice was targeted for a larger business.
Got it.
So that would be the first thing. There was another question at the end of that about influencers. Oh no, I think it had to do with posting. Okay. So what she's talking about is actually a fairly new phenomenon. So one of the things with the algorithm for LinkedIn, people want to have their posts be seen, right? And so it's really smart. She's asking about that. And LinkedIn forever didn't really tell us about that. They don't publicize the exact algorithm. People are trying to figure it out. They've put out a few blogs, engineering blogs about it. And there's certain things about what you can do to have better success with a post. So there are various techniques and tactics that you can do. And it has to do with, the content, the spacing, the hashtags, the mention. I mean, there's just like a whole bunch of stuff you can do to improve your results for your posting. But what she's talking about, which a lot of people don't realize, is there's some people, they create what's called a pod, which is they band together and they encourage, they support each other. And it's a little bit controversial because there's people that do it. And what happens is, so like you put a post out and you've got 50 people or 20 people or 10 people that start liking your stuff and commenting within the first couple hours, as Angela mentioned. And so with the LinkedIn expert community, there's different opinions about this. There's some people that will say that it's kind of like a phony way to do it. LinkedIn officially, it's against the rules to do it. They say you're not supposed to do it, although people do it. And I don't think I don't think you're going to get into major trouble with it. My take on it is this, Angela. I feel like, first of all, you want to learn how to write a fabulous post, and you sound pretty savvy, so it sounds like you'll be doing that. Like, know how to construct a great post. And then if you're active, you should be supporting your friends. Like, you should have a community of people that if if I see my friends post, I comment, I support them. And guess what? When I put a post up, it's very authentic and organic. Then they'll comment on mine. It's not like a forced club that they have to be in. And like, you've got to, some of these groups have set up these very rigorous, you must post within 2 hours or you're out of this pod. And I don't go for that. I think it's just building relationships, having a high quality post, commenting on other people's, they will comment on yours, they will like yours. And sometimes you might even send the link to a couple of your friends. Like, say you have a post that is perfect for a few people. You could mention them, you could send the link to them and say, oh, this post, I was thinking about you. And that will help a little bit, but I don't want to make it too much of a structured, phony thing. Make it more natural. And I hope that's my perspective. And I guess you're going to have different opinions from different people. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And I like that too, because there's an integrity piece here too. And you want to, and I love how you worded it. You want to learn how to construct and write a powerful post that sparks that kind of that momentum automatically, or motivates action. Because action can be liking it, it can be commenting, it can be sharing, or it could be picking up the phone and calling you because they want to work with you on that time. So and that's real important skill set. In fact, it's probably it falls under copywriting. Copywriting is one of the most powerful tools that you will learn and use in your business, because you can use it in any industry at all. But that's what that is writing words that will touch, move, and inspire people to action. Yeah,
but and Angela's got a good point though, because sometimes you can write a great post and it's hard, right? Yeah. So the relationships are key. So one thing I'll tell you, which might surprise you, is for my posting, 80% of my posts are commenting on other people's posts. I know people, they just spit out posts and they think, well, why aren't people commenting? Well, guess what? It's back to giver's gain. You make comments, you ask questions, and you're probably doing this already, Angela, but that's my philosophy. More often than not, you're supporting other people, and it will make a huge difference.
Love that. Love that. Jacqueline asks, does your LinkedIn club, does it teach you how to write a great profile?
Absolutely. So you start off with your brand, and it basically it helps you figure out what's the most important thing about your brand. What are the keywords that you want to be focused on? What do you want to emphasize? We actually do some thinking, but you don't just sit and do your profile. You have to actually think through your brand. And then that's the first part. The first course is the whole brand, understanding your brand. And then you go into the profile course, and every single section of the profile, there's videos and examples and instruction for you to do. And then we jump on Zoom calls and we give each other feedback. So yes, that's out of those 6 modules, that's the first 2, the brand and then the profile. That's the first 2. And then after you do your profile, you move into the strategic selling network. Absolutely.
Yeah, huge. And that work that you do in that, guys, it's super valuable. It gets into your values, what you want to represent, what's your the mission of your business, all of that, so you can portray that in your profile.
It's interesting. There's a lot of people that could potentially be like you. They could have, they could be notaries, and they could live in your same city. Maybe you live in Cleveland and there's other notaries in Cleveland. But what the stuff that Bill's talking about is what we try to do in that first module, is help you say what's distinct about you. Yeah. Maybe it's your approach. Maybe it's your values. Maybe it's your unique perspective. Bring those things out. And so that when people come to your profile, again, it gets back to motivate and inspire by being who you are.
Yeah. Love that. Lorraine asks a great question. She says, I've been encouraged to post personal experiences like vacation photos. What's your opinion regarding personal posts on LinkedIn?
Okay. So, there's different opinions on that. And I will tell you that I like a personal thread. I don't like I never post on LinkedIn. I don't put my like Christmas family photo on LinkedIn. I put that on Facebook. I don't put anything. I don't put pictures of my kids. I don't do any of that. Now, I would say that what I do, I love it to be professional, but a personal thread. So to give you an example, I did a post I think it was December, it was Mountain Day. Because one of the things I do with the club is I send out content ideas every single month, and I give you what the special days are. And the last December, I think it was December or November, it was Mountain Day. So I told a little story about when I was 17 and this mountain that I was at. And then I talked about how, from professionally kind of the mountains that we climb. So I kind of brought in a little bit of a personal story and I tied it into Mountain Day. That's an example that you can use a personal thread. And actually some people are quite personal. I have to tell you, some people are, to me, overly personal. They'll share, there's plenty of people that are on there, they're talking about mental health. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's really your own comfort level. But I'm just telling you, for me, I kind of draw a line and I want it to be all professional, except a little, maybe a personal story is fine for me. But you have to draw your own line. And that's where I draw mine. What about you, Bill? How do you do that?
So for me, as a solopreneur, meaning like for us guys, for most of us, there's no line between us and our business. We are our business. In fact, the part that distinguishes us from others is our personality in many cases. So even though I don't like to, like on LinkedIn, I don't take as many liberties as I do on Instagram. Like Instagram is my business, or it's my personal, but also definitely ties into my business. Facebook is blend of business and personal because that's my personality. That's who my customers are going to be working with, is me. They're going to work with who they know, like, and trust. And my job is to give them little kernels of who I am and what I'm about. And this is why you might want to work with me. This might not be why you want to work with me. That's okay. So that's real important to me. Because for me, my business is my masterpiece. I'm constantly working on it and evolving. I want to share that. But what I'm learning out in the world and whom I am becoming is impacting my business. So I kind of cross that. Now, LinkedIn, a little bit different, but not as much personal, but I still try to add something on there that's going to show my personality.
Personality, people care about who you are as a person, and having a little personality is really important. Yeah.
Yep. Great questions, guys. And we got a few more here too. So Kia says, is it important that our business page say notary or loan signing agent, or will people find the business page based on content? So how do business pages work? Can people search for it?
So yeah, people can search for it, but most likely, this is how it's most likely going to happen. They're going to be connected with you, or they're going to see you post, and then they're going to go to look at your profile. They're going to read about you. They're going to be interested. And then from your personal profile, they might click onto your company page. The other way they might get to your company page is from your website. So they're on your website. It could be, you have a little icon for LinkedIn and Facebook, and they're going to click over. Now they can certainly go and put it in the search bar. That's another way. But I would say the most common way is they're going to be at your profile or your website first, and then come to your.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, the way that I get often tagged on LinkedIn and Facebook, any social media, is somebody goes on there and says, does anyone know a notary? And then people tag me or mention me in the comments, and that's how it goes.
But Bill, are they mentioning your company, or are they mentioning you as a person?
The person, always the person. And I love how you said that. People want to do business with a person, not a company. So it's always my personal profile.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Ross says, since the pandemic, I've definitely learned in forming my own business more remotely. That is my overall goal. Since then, I've started utilizing LinkedIn more and have recently started reaching out to my connections, either introducing myself and or reminding them of who I am. How often should I reach out so I'm not overbearing? Great question.
Okay, well, again, it really depends. So if you've reached out to someone and reminded them who you are, I think what I would suggest is thinking about it like, show interest in the other person first, and then they're going to be more interested in a conversation. It's just sort of the natural human way. So if somebody reaches out to me and says, remember me, that's one thing. But if they reach out to me and they say, oh, I noticed such and such about your profile. I mean, it's just human. We all want people to be, we're all interested in ourselves. So it might help you to be really, really look at their profile. And even if you know these people and you haven't seen them, it's a good idea. What you're doing is you're trying to refresh them. One of the big things you can do is look at their content, and the way to warm them up is engage with their content. So if look at their posts, and maybe you can make a comment. You know, you don't want to overdo it. I had one guy connect with me, and then he commented on 42 things. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I felt like it was too much, you know. But if somebody I meet makes a couple comments on my posts, I definitely know who they are. And I'm probably going to look at their profile. I'm interested in them. The other thing is thinking about how you can be a valuable person to them. Like, maybe, let's say you worked with them and you had a great relationship, but it's been a while. You want to warm them up. You know, maybe you worked with them 5 years ago and you really haven't had a conversation. So you could comment on their post. You could endorse them. You know, you could recommend them. You could introduce them to someone. I mean, there's so many ways you can be valuable just by being a good connector, and then you're getting into conversations that way. So it might help you, rather than if you're just reaching out and saying, this is who I am, that's harder than doing these other, approaches, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I love this, because I think one of the big mistakes that we have is, I think everybody on this call and in this audience is kind of the same way. It's like, we don't necessarily just want to talk about ourselves all the time. Some of us are introverts, and we struggle with what we're supposed to say. But then all of a sudden we hit this threshold of like, oh, I'm just going to talk about me. I'm going to get out and I'm going to talk about it. So we end up just focusing on ourselves too much. And we want to sell ourselves. We use the same language. We have $100,000 in E&O. This is what I'm passionate about. I wake up early. Everybody starts selling the same thing. When you reverse the conversation and you talk about them, and this is the real power of LinkedIn that I found, is getting in, seeing who I needed to talk to, seeing how I could connect. And I usually choose the low-hanging fruit, right? There's usually information on there about the sports they're involved in, how well they're doing at work, they're being mentioned somewhere. There's always some way to connect and add value that way. And really, we just talked about on this call, right, Sandra, how important and valuable it is for people to like and comment and share posts. You can be that value to other people who they're working on their own business. They're trying to be influencers. They're trying to connect. They're trying to post value too. So if the minimum that you could take on right now was just to like their post, maybe share it if it really touched you and you could maybe add something to it, that makes a huge difference. That's how you organically grow a relationship. It doesn't have to be in the chat or in the messages all the time. You can really build up that you're in it for them. I'm supporting you. I'll share your information. I believe in what you're doing. I'll share that with my audience too. Then they might reach out to you and say, hey, this is awesome. Thank you for doing this. You want to collaborate on something? Or at least you'd have your foot in the door to talk about other stuff.
Yeah, totally agree.
And if you're an introvert on this call, you are in good company, because I am a huge introvert. And part of the reason that I found LinkedIn and the power of it is that you can very passively and in a non-salesy way connect with people on a meaningful and more authentic level. It's not selling. It's one of my favorite approaches is to congratulate people and just say, hey, I saw that you're going through this. Awesome job doing that. And then it usually fuels a conversation about passion and the passion they bring to the industry and how much I'm attracted to working with other people who are equally as passionate. And then we just figure it out, see if we can work together.
Yeah, that's a great example. Congratulate them, new job, new book, whatever. And people they'll love that, and that will start a great conversation.
Excellent. Okay, so Carlton has a great question. For those already on LinkedIn for another industry, what's the best way to introduce your new brand or your new service or your new notary initiative?
Yeah, I mean, it's using that essay that used to be called a summary. You know, so you'd enter, you'd have your old position in your experience, and you'd have the new position of the notary in your experience, and then you'd tell the story in your essay. You know, maybe you talk about why you're doing that, or whatever your personal story is, making that transition, how you enjoy working with customers, something like that.
Yeah.
All that essay would tell that story.
Teresa has a great question. She says she's looked up escrow companies in her area, and she's finding that most of them are not real active on LinkedIn. So they're not posting and updating their page. So would you adjust your strategy at all to connect with them on LinkedIn?
Well, she said escrow companies. Is it the companies, or because I'd rather if she finds the companies, go find the people that work at the companies.
Yes, thank you.
Because people are usually more active than the companies. Again, it really, for what you guys are all talking about, and for what I talk about, it's the people. Focus primarily on the people.
Excellent. And then, to clarify, if you have escrow officers that aren't as active on social media, you can still reach out and connect with them. You can still post or share that way. And then the other thing that you have to at some point come to terms with is that maybe some people are not as active on LinkedIn. It's not going to be the ideal connection for everybody, and that's okay too.
No, that's true. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, there's all kinds of statistics, and it's growing very fast. And but it's not 100%. There's no way that it's 100%. Yeah.
Right. And then just keep going at it. And then if you're into general notary work as well, the options are endless for the attorney options as well on there, or anybody else that you'd want to connect with.
So the reason that like attorneys are on here, attorneys are just like you guys. They want more business, and the real estate agents, they want more. Everyone's on there for the same reason. That's why you do have a lot of them on there.
Exactly. All right, guys, it looks like, we got Nancy has her hand up. You've been so patient, Nancy. Did I ask your question, or would you like to unmute and ask yours? I'll unmute you. Let's see.
Mute.
There we go.
No, mine mine was going with the company page, and that's been answered. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nancy. All right, guys, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I'm just going to post the link to Sandra's LinkedIn Personal Best Club again in the chat window here. Post that in there. If you'd like to participate in that, use coupon code 16 so you can get that $16 a month discount, making it just $27 a month with no commitment. Sandra, thank you so much for, again, amazing content and information. And thank you for bringing the passion to your industry as well.
Oh, thank you. And I hope that I see people in the club, and I just wish everybody a lot of success with LinkedIn, no matter what.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, guys, enjoy your time. Thank you for growing yourself and your business on a Monday. Enjoy your week. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bill.